What's going on, everybody? Phil here with GatherFive and the Cheap Drinks and Cheat Codes podcast. Here today, just gonna bring you a pickups video. Instead of doing this during the podcast or the podcast on stream, which is every Thursday at 5:30, and come and we talk about video games, what's going on with news and video games and anime and anything we feel like talking about that week. But sometimes on our first one, I did a little bit of a pickup section, but depending on the month, the week, 1 week could be extremely long and take up a lot of time on the podcast doing that. So instead, I just kind of got together everything I got throughout February and yesterday, which is technically in March, but I still count it as part of February because it's still the first week, and I just wanted to show off because here at the end, you're going to see something that when I saw it at a local game store, I had to pick it up because I haven't seen it in the wild in the 2 years of collecting I've been doing, because I started collecting about 2 years ago. And I'm just doing this because as a new game collector and following other YouTubers and people that are game collectors, I enjoy watching their pickups videos because they introduce me to things I didn't know about. Anime, be it other video games, game series such as the E series I wouldn't know of until now, and especially one of these games that I got, a couple of these games I wouldn't have known about them unless I watched and started following game collectors. So let's get right into it. The first thing is an item known to many collectors out there now, but I finally picked up. It's a Retron 5, and you might see here you go. Hi Iron, how's it going? A Retron 5 here. So what this is that's just the box. It's upstairs, hooked to my TV. It's a way to play Famicom, NES, Super Famicom, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Mega Drive, and Game Boy and Game Boy Advance on a big screen TV through HDMI. So it's very nice. It's all in one package. With that, because from what I've heard reviews on the actual controller that comes with it, it is wireless, but it's not that nice. I picked up for pretty cheap one of these aftermarket SNES controllers so I could play some of the games I bought right here. It works really well. It feels just like a Super Nintendo controller. The Super Nintendo was the first console I had it as a kid. I got it when I was like 4 years old for Christmas. And I've been testing it out, testing out some of these games I got with it, and it feels very nice. So if you decide to pick up a Retron 5 so you can play some of your old games, that aftermarket, it was like $12. Really nice controller to work with it. I will say with the Retron 5, and there's a lot of reviews out there, it does really grab hold to the carts. You need to be careful. I just learned that I was probably taking the carts out incorrectly. So I would say when you get it, make sure you look up Hyperkin, who the company that makes the Retron 5, does a video on how to take out the carts for each system. The Game Boy is not that difficult, and actually the Game Boy Advance, I played like Super Mario Advanced on my big screen, and it was actually played very nicely. So it does a good job. Another thing is it takes SD cards. They say they've tested it up to 32 gigabytes, and you can load in translation patches, which you'll see why is a big thing here later. Or you can also update the firmware of it, because they constantly do that. Which just helps out with bugs and crashes in games. I will say that it is emulation. What it does is it takes the cart, it takes off the ROM, and then plays it in the system. So I know there are some elitists out there. A really good friend of mine he's a collector, and when I moved back to the Midwest and hung out with him for the first time in 2 years, it kind of was a part of kickstarting me into collecting. He's big on getting the actual hardware. For me, it's not a big deal, and from what I've seen so far, the emulation works really well. But we'll move on from that and actually into some anime. I've been getting back into watching anime recently. My favorite anime, you'll find out if you watch the podcast or later on, is Gundam Wing. But up there with that is Cowboy Bebop. It's obviously atop there. Everybody loves Cowboy Bebop. And I just was ordering something else, and this has been sitting in my Amazon cart, and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm grabbing Cowboy Bebop, the complete series, just because I know it's available on things like Hulu and stuff, but those can go away, and then you don't have access to it anymore. But having it on Blu-ray, I can always have access to it, and always go back and enjoy that 90s anime goodness. Now the next item here, it comes from the closed beta for Phantasy Star Online 2 finally coming to the West. It's a game from 2012, but we're finally getting it over here in the West, as it is one of the biggest MMORPGs in Japan right now, and it has been for a long time. And because of the popularity, they actually made an anime for it. So once I played that closed beta, I mean, it was the first game in probably a few years that I stayed up until like 3 a.m. playing. I really fell into it. It's a lot of fun. And for an MMO, it's not too overwhelming. It does really walk you through things, and it's just really nice of a play, and I enjoy that sci-fi fantasy style that it has. It was a lot of fun, so I started, researching more and more about the game because of its launch coming to the West, and then I saw that they had this anime. Well, it's a little complete collection. It's only like 12 episodes long, but I had to pick it up, and I will be checking this out soon. And then last year for anime, I was actually ordering a phone case, which is its own story. Ended up getting it for the wrong phone, had to return it. But when I was doing that, this actually was pretty cheap and sitting in my Amazon wish list as well. So I was just like, I'll pick it up. And I finally sat down and watched it a couple days ago, right after finally playing through the original Legend of Zelda. Yes, a game 6 years older than I am. And if you can do the math, you can figure out how old I am with that. But that is Akira. Now, I've always been a little hesitant because looking at the cover of this does not give away the theme very well, or at all. For me, I thought it might be about maybe racing or something with this, as you can see with that cool looking motorcycle there. But it's actually about like post-apocalyptic, post World War III type of thing, and it really goes against what you're thinking based off what this cover looks like. But the art is beautiful. The story itself left me thinking at the end about the underlying meaning. So it allows you to kind of take the meaning and have it become your own. It was a really fun ride. It does say that it's 95 minutes in runtime, but that's incorrect on here. It's about 2 hours, or at least the Blu-ray version of it is. Maybe it has some extra stuff. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it. Should just be the original movie, but it was fun to watch that and finally get that as something to watch, because I've been hearing about it for a very long time. So now we're going to move back into some games. First one here is Homefront for the Xbox 360. Picked this up as a local game store that I go to a bunch. Has a buy two get one free month long on mix and match of games. Sometimes they do buy one get one frees for certain systems, but they've got a ton of stuff. And with the buy two get one free, I needed one extra game. I have the sequel on my Xbox One, and I want to play the first before I go on the sequel. It's not supposed to be too long. I think like 5 to 6 hours. So hopefully, I just started it. It's fun. It's a fun first-person shooter, and it's all coming from that age of Call of Duty on the Xbox 360 and everything. But it is it's an interesting. It's say post World War III, if more of post Korean War if Korea ended up uniting, type of thing, and then Korea becoming a powerhouse. So it's interesting, and you're kind of this revolutionary group trying to take back your homeland because they invade the U.S. and you're trying to get the U.S. back. So far it's fun. I mean, it's not gonna break any records or obviously isn't some super popular game, but it's fun and I'm gonna enjoy it. Next, I'm gonna move on to some PS4 games. First up here is Yakuza 0. So as I'm saying, I'm a game collector, so I'm doing some game hunting, and as of right now, with one of my other games on here, you'll see you can get all the Yakuza games on the PS4, and I'd like to get that full collection because my first Yakuza game is actually Yakuza 3 on the PS3, and I loved it. I loved it so much that I was like, man, I want to try some of this food, and I looked for a Japanese restaurant in my area so I could go try it because I had never had it before, or at least I never thought I did. So getting this prequel game, I can start my playthrough of the rest of them. The only ones I need to complete the collection of Yakuza on the PS4 is the Yakuza 2 remake and Yakuza 6. And then the new game Judgment's supposed to be in the same universe. So I guess I'll throw that in there. And then I think they're currently making Yakuza 7 if it's not already out in Japan. But I believe it's still being made. So that's a good pickup. Can't wait to hop into this soon. In that game with these other two here, which I'll do together because they're similar, I got from a buy two get one free at a different local video game store over the Labor Day holiday, I believe. And that is Sword Art Online Hollow Realization. Now this, I believe, is a remaster of a PlayStation Vita game. And I've been a fan of Sword Art Online for the past, when I started watching anime again about 2 years ago. It was one of the first anime I hopped into to start watching. And, I loved it. It was a lot of fun. It's a very interesting story, and the art is wonderful. And then the second one here is Sword Art Online Last Song. So 2 Sword Art games that I have been on my to-buy list, as I really want to just get all in on Sword Art. I'm a huge fan. I know I still need to watch Sword Art Online 2. I know it's a different storyline, and then they have that new Sword Art Online that is out currently, I believe, and I'm able to watch it on Hulu. I need to get into that, but I've got too much anime to catch up on and watch, but hopefully I can get to those soon. Get to playing these soon. Some more PS4 games here, but these are more current launches. So here to go with Yakuza 0, and this was big. It came out earlier this month, and that is Yakuza the Remastered Collection. So this gives you Yakuza 3, Yakuza 4, and Yakuza 5 remastered for the PS4. I showed this off a little bit in the first podcast, but it's really nice here. They got this inlay booklet that's got it has the disc in there. You got Yakuza 4 and 5. Got some nice artwork behind it. These ending, all Japanese kind of inline things that they're talking about the game and the world. And then another thing, if you're a collector, Yakuza 5 actually never came out physical in the West. It was only in Japan. So what they did, if you're a collector, is they gave you a PS3 booklet for your Yakuza 5. So if you had all the other Yakuza on PS3, you now have a case to complete your collection, which I thought is cool. I don't think it's needed, not for me at least, because I'm going to complete the collection on PS4. With PS5 coming out and being backwards compatible, even if I don't, finish, I'm not going to finish these by the time the PS5 comes out, but I can just pop them into my PS5 and they should run. Hopefully they do things right over there at Sony. But I think they are. I think backwards compatibility is going to be a big thing. And it's going to come back finally, which I'm very happy for. So yeah, Yakuza. So only need 2 more games really to complete the Yakuza collection, and then Judgment, which is kind of like a spin-off. Now this next game here, Platinum Studios has become a pretty big name. They've released Astral Chain on the Switch, which I have, and I'm really looking forward to playing through. My wife actually gave me a Nintendo Switch Pro controller that I didn't have. I had like some wired one that was cheap because I collect games on a budget as much as I can, and I didn't want to dish out $70 for a wireless Pro controller. So you got that for me, and it's gonna be great because I know this Astral Chain game for them. I'm gonna really need a nice controller to play that game and really enjoy it. But 10 years ago, they released a couple games that somewhat under the radar. One went under the radar, I feel, but I played it on the PlayStation 3 and I loved it. This other one I never got to play, and I'm glad I can have it now. And that is the Bayonetta and Vanquish 10th Anniversary Edition. Now the launch one, if you got it, comes with this really nice steelbook. You can see there's the Bayonetta side. There's the Vanquish side. I know both of these games are great. It's going to be fun to finally start and get to play Bayonetta. But Vanquish is really fun. It's a sci-fi shooter game with a very interesting mechanic of speed, like being able to slide around and stuff. It's very fun. If you've never played Vanquish, pick up this bundle. Even if you already have Bayonetta, because now you can have Bayonetta remastered instead of on the Switch. You can have it remastered for your PS4 or your Xbox One. It came out on Xbox One too. I picked it up on PS4 because third-person action games I prefer mostly on PS4 than on my Xbox One. I leave my Xbox One mainly for first-person shooters. So that's like the new stuff with one retro. Now we're gonna get a little more retro. I finally was just perusing. I think I was waiting, kind of wasting time. I stopped in at a retro game shop, and they had Super Mario Galaxy 2. I remember playing the first one on the Wii when I had it. Loved it, but I never had a chance to get the second one or play it, and finally have it. I just now need to get the first one back. I'll have both of them, and they're both. I know the first one's wonderful games. I played a little bit of the second one, and it's a lot of fun. It's that 3D Mario. I just finished Mario Odyssey at the start of the year, and can't go wrong with 3D Mario. They do such a great job. So I can't wait to dive deep into that. So now on to, if you've seen this video and noticed the little overlay I put up here, and the reason why I got the Retron 5, got some Super Famicom games. First one here is Mirai. It's an RPG. I was just back yesterday at where I got the Retron 5. They're probably getting too used to me, but I'm giving them a lot of business, so that's nice. Make sure you go and check out your local game shops. We need to keep them there so we can get these games. One thing about getting Super Famicom games is that they tend to be cheaper. So this doing a buy two get one free. This was actually one game I ended up getting for free. I saw it. It looked interesting. The little cover here on the on the cart. So I googled it real quick. Saw that it was an RPG. And as you can probably figure out so far, I'm a big RPG fan. especially JRPGs. So I was like, oh, an RPG, might as well pick it up. I can see what it is, you know. And like I said, with that Retron 5, I can go online, find a translation patch to translate it to English, put it in that SD card, load it up, and play this game in English. So, you know, I only spent, you know, this ended up being free. I didn't spend anything for it, and I get to play it, you know, in English. So that's nice. Next here was one of the games of why I was going back yesterday, and that's Street Fighter 2. Now, Street Fighter 2, you know, it came out in the West. You know, Burai here, it didn't. It's a Japan-only game, which is part of the reason why I picked it up. You know, I'm never gonna be able to find it, and for the Super Nintendo, or at least the North American version. And you're like, okay, well, I can pick this up. They actually had it for the Super Nintendo at this shop. Well, why did I pick it up on the Super Famicom? Well, on the Super Famicom, it's only, you know, it's $6. I can't get it there, but it was $5.99. On the Super Nintendo, it was around $15. Half price, basically get it for half off, just to get the Japanese version. And I popped this into my Retron 5, and pretty much everything's in English. Anyways. So I didn't load a translation patch, but it, you know, it pops up. It says Capcom Street Fighter 2. Press start. Press any button. There's none of the menus that I noticed were in Japanese. So even though it's, you know, the Japanese version, I mean, you can even see there on the back, it's all Japanese. I can play it perfectly fine on the Retron 5. I tried to, you know, play a little bit against the computer. It kicked my ass. I'm better at the arcade machine than I am at the Super Nintendo game, it seems. Then next year, I picked it up mainly because of Kid Shoryuken, or Jim. He's a retro game collector and in Japan, and he mentioned this game, Ranma 1/2. Bakuretsu Ranto Hen, and I initially picked my Retron 5 up and got some other games here that I'll show in a moment, and wasn't sure what all to get, and then I noticed that he mentioned this game in one of his Super Famicom games left in Japan. And because the first Ranma, I believe, did get released here. It's based off an old anime, an 80s anime, but it wasn't ever released in the West. And I was like, well, cool. I think they had it there. And yeah, for, you know, $6. No, this one ended up being free too with everything I bought. I was able to get it. It's a 2D fighting game. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. I'll probably get my butt kicked until I play it enough to get decent at it. I'm not a great fighting game guy. I'm more of a, well, I like Mortal Kombat. I'm pretty good at it. Not that great. But I do enjoy fighting games at times. And anything that's anime based is, especially on the Super Famicom or that stays in Japan, is probably going to be good stuff. And this will push me to actually go check out this Ranma anime, because I don't think I ever watched it. Yeah, so that was another pickup. And then the last, no, I still got quite a few here, so let's get through them. The next one that I picked up is Fatal Fury 2, another fighting game. Now, this is the only Super Nintendo and a North American Super Nintendo game that I have so far with my Retron 5. The only reason why I picked it up is because they had it for the same exact price on the Super Famicom. They even had a Famicom version that was actually a little more than this. And that kind of could be due to quality. But no, again, it's another fighting game. And I tested it out. It works great on the Retron 5, and the controller works great. It's another game I tested with it. I got my butt kicked really, really quickly. I think there might be a big learning curve for this, and I'll have to learn fast on how to really get a lot better at that. But Fatal Fury 2, another fighting game, I added into my collection. So now, going into the last few here. So when I picked up my Retron 5, another JRPG, Silva Saga 2. Again, once I saw it, I was immediately brought in by that cover art on the cart. So I had to go in, Googled, saw it was an RPG, saw it was Dragon Quest like, I think, and I was just like, yeah, I'll pick it up. It has a translation patch. I even loaded up the translation patch to test, and it works. So I can't wait to dive into this at some point when I feel like going back to playing a nice retro RPG. Next here is Super Gachapon World SD Gundam X. So when I saw this there, it wasn't actually, I wasn't looking for it, but I did notice that is a Gundam. I'm a huge Gundam fan, so I picked it up. It's like an RTS style game, which is going to be interesting to play on the Super Famicom because I'm not a console RTS player. Never really got into them, but it is Gundam, so I'm going to try it out. And I might not, finish it, but if I get really into it, maybe I will. A lot of the things with Gundam is they were mainly released in Japan. A lot of Gundam games never made it over to the West, and I would really like to get a really big collection of Gundam video games. So if you know of any that I don't know on retro that are in the West, I'll keep my eye out. I do know there's quite a few, especially Gundam Versus that came out recently on the PS4 that I'll be picking up just to have. I know Gundam Versus is just a big fighting game, but I'm a huge fan of Gundam, and I'm gonna keep that collection growing. The last year on the Super Famicom, Dragon Quest V. Dragon Quest is huge in Japan. It didn't get that big here in the US. We were leaning towards Final Fantasy, but Dragon Quest is big. These are cheap. They sell like hotcakes in Japan, and they did. So I had to pick it up. Got a translation patch for it, and I'm ready to play this here soon. I'm going to hop into and try and get a full Dragon Quest collection because I'm a huge fan of, Final Fantasy. So I know I'm going to love Dragon Quest as it's from the same creators. So how can it not be good? Alright, last few items here. I'm going to bundle two of them together. These were some pickups that I am so glad I found because they've been hard to find locally. First here, Xenosaga 1 and Xenosaga 2. I actually found these like 2 days apart, and I was extremely happy. This Namco, or now Bandai Namco, I've heard so much about these games. If you look at collectors of PS2 RPGs, these are on there. Xenosaga 3 is the only one I need now, but the one shop I've been going to a lot for local games, GrumpyBob's Emporium, they have it, but they're selling it for like $80 because it is pretty rare and pretty collectible. So that's a little out of my budget right now. Maybe later on, or if I get some random money that I can go and pick it up, I will. But I'm so glad to have these, and I'm really looking forward to trying those out soon. I got a lot of RPGs on my list, and I've been building up my RPGs on the PS2, but hopefully soon I get to try those out. And now, last here is I never thought I'd see this in the wild, just out looking, and I wasn't even trying to look for it yesterday when I went to GrumpyBob's to pick up really just Super Famicom and Super Nintendo games. That's Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, and this is the limited edition. Comes with the soundtrack. I don't have the CD in here right now because it's in my car. I've been listening to it. I listened to it for a drive. That thing has like over 30 tracks on it, and the music is a very, very fun, a mix of like rock and roll and Castlevania. So in the West, it's called Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. In Japan, it's Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, or actually just Megami Tensei. The international, moving it to the West, they added the Shin in the start. But these games started on the Famicom and Super Famicom from Atlas. So that name might ring a bell if you are fans of Persona, because Persona is technically Shin Megami Tensei Persona. It's all in that same kind of world. The first game is based off of a book called Digital Devil Story, but I saw this and I immediately grabbed it. It wasn't in its original case, so I had an extra PS2 game I had gotten that I just had. I think I picked it up in a lot from a friend. I took that original case and put it in this case, but it's all in great condition. I popped the disc in, it works great. The CD is great, and I got it for just around $30, which is what it's going for on eBay. The thing with the app I use, it's just giving an average. That sale could give any condition, but this is in immaculate condition, and I so glad I found it in the wild, and I'm gonna dive into this. Atlas does some great stuff with their games and their animation and their soundtracks. I started Persona 5 recently, but with the Royal Edition coming out, I'm pushing that off until I get that. But it's I'm falling in love. I've never gotten into the series until I started, getting into game collecting, and it's gonna be fun to keep searching. There's two other ones I know of on the PS2 that I want to pick up. That's Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. Hopefully those aren't too hard to find, but finding this was just one of those things that makes game hunting great. You just find that golden item, and you're just like, yeah, I gotta pick it up. I mean, it was nice because during a buy two get one free, so picking this up, I was able to get some of those other games for free and just pay a few extra bucks here. I mean, this was a little more than I was planning on spending, but found it, I had to grab it. It was a price I was willing to pay. Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne from Atlas. Can't wait to dive in. But that's all I have for this pickups video. I'll probably do these. Try once a month or a little longer when I feel like I've gotten enough in my collection to do something. I was planning on showing off a shirt I just ordered, but it actually was supposed to come in yesterday and didn't. Thank you, United States Postal Service. But yeah, maybe that'll be in the next video. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions about games, I'll look through the comments after this is posted. Keep it up. If you guys have suggestions on things I should be looking for, fun games that just kind of go under the radar, I'll do my best to find them. I'm trying to build this collection up, especially these JRPGs. I'm so happy to have found these three, and to have that Yakuza collection building up. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you're watching this, hopefully this will go up before the podcast, so check us out on our podcast, Cheap Drinks and Cheat Codes. Thursdays, 5:30 EST. We talk about games and anime and everything. Fun time. Come in, ask questions, chill out. We're on Twitch, Mixer, maybe even Facebook and YouTube. We're trying to get out there for you guys to come watch, talk about video games with us, and all things nerd. But anyway, guys, till next time.